Amnesty International says it has seen a sharp rise in the number of reported deaths in custody in Syria. Now, in its latest report, Amnesty documented 88 deaths over 4.5 months. The organization says it's aware of only 2 of these cases being officially investigated. All of these were individuals, and they were men or boys. Now, 40 of them were reportedly arrested in homes here, where there have been major anti-government protests. Amnesty International has also said that they have footage of bodies, and we've had a look at them, and it's just been too graphic to air on CNN. It basically shows what looks like various forms of torture, including burns, bruises, stab wounds, as well as mutilation. And much of the evidence also from the report that has been gathered in statements from eyewitnesses, relatives of victims, and social media. Videos like this, amateur videos that you get to see on YouTube. This one in particular shows the funeral of a 20-year-old man and a 15-year-old boy who reportedly went missing during mass arrests of protesters. That was on April the 29th. Joining us now is the lead author of this report. Neil Salmons is an Amnesty International researcher, and you spoke to many of the family members in a bunch of interviews that you did. Thank you so much for being with us. Give us more detail about what they told you.
Well, you know, as your report and your package has highlighted, the details are appalling. They're heinous. The situations in Syrian detention centres, both official ones and unofficial, are pretty close to like hell on earth. People have been held in incommunicado detention. They don't have access to the outside world, visitors, lawyers, etc. And the kind of incidents of torture which have been seen, and the injuries which are visible on the bodies, including bruises, electrocution, including of genitalia, severed penises in several cases, suspected broken necks, incredible bruising all over the body from severe beatings from fists, planks, cables, and so on. I mean, you're right. I mean, I've seen 45 videos of corpses over the last couple of months working on this report, and it is beyond belief. It's absolutely disgusting.
Are these scare tactics by the Assad regime working, or do you feel from the sources that you speak to that the protests are still gathering momentum in spite of horrific things like this?
Well, it seems more of the latter. I mean, it seems that the people who are taking to the streets have decided that they've shaken off the fear, even if they know that they may get shot on the streets or they may get taken away and tortured or possibly even killed in detention, that they need to keep going. They know that there's a kind of a deadlock at the moment between the state and its abhorrent violent practices against them, and yet the overwhelmingly peaceful protests are continuing on a daily basis in scores of locations. So I think it's partly showing a kind of desperation of the regime that they will go to horrendous levels to beat people back. They are trying to scare the opposition. And at the same time, it shows the absence of political will at the international level, because they know they can get away with murder. They know they have effectively impunity unless other people step in and try to stop them.
Bashar al-Assad has made a really big deal about lifting the state of emergency in Syria. Has that had any impact at all in any positive way on human rights?
Not at all. I mean, it sounds nice, and it is something which Amnesty International and local organisations and activists have called for decades. All sorts of very restrictive regulations on people's rights to assembly and so on. But as you can see, people are going on the streets trying to assemble, and yet they're being shot at by the security forces. So it's just kind of a paper reform, and there's other new legislation which is as bad, or if not even worse, than the state of emergency itself.
What should the international community do? Can they do anything? Does anyone have leverage over Syria, or is this regime just protecting its own survival?
Well, it does seem that it's kind of fighting to the death, effectively. The international community does have a possibility here. So the main call from Amnesty is that it refers the situation in the country to the International Criminal Court, because as this kind of footage is showing, crimes against humanity are taking place. So that's, you know, arbitrary detention, torture, and effectively murder. These, when part of a systematic attack on the civilian population, count as war crimes. That has to be the ICC. There's also calls for the comprehensive arms embargo on the country and for an assets freeze. There's also, like, the United States and also the EU are imposing oil embargoes, and that kind of leverage is something which we might see begin to have effect over the coming weeks and months.
Neil Salmons with Amnesty International, thank you so much.